Hariom, welcome back to Dhaaga, where we learn about Hinduism. And in today's episode, we will be looking at the Swaminarayan sect with my lovely friend Vishwa. So, Hinduism is made up of many diverse schools of thoughts, also known as Sampradayas. One of the main schools of thought is the Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is made up of followers of Sri Vishnu or the avatars of Sri Vishnu, like Sri Krishna, Sri Ram, etc. One of the subsect of the Vaishnava Sampradaya is the Swaminarayan Sampradaya. And today we have with us a practitioner of the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, my dear friend Vishwa. Please introduce yourself, Vishwa.
Yes, so my name is Vishwa. I'm a third-year student in the drawing and painting program at OCAD. My current practice revolves around symmetry and sacred geometry as it relates to dance and temples and Hinduism and Indian culture at the moment.
So tell us about the Swaminarayan Sampradaya. From my knowledge of it, it flourished in India around 18th/17th century. So
Swaminarayan was born as Ghanshyam Pandey in Chapaya in UP, Uttar Pradesh in 1781, which is north of Ayodhya, like by 30 kilometers if you know Indian geography. And then by the age of 11, he went out on a yatra around India and Nepal, and then he settled in Gujarat, which is where most followers of Swaminarayan are from. And yeah, that's basically like the history of it in a nutshell.
um, talking about talking about Swaminarayan's connection to Vaishnavism and how it's a subsect of Vaishnavism. How what is the philosophy? What is the core philosophy? Is it like the Vaishnava philosophy of like finding reverence in the avatars of Vishnu, or
It has very similar philosophy to the rest of like Vaishnavism, especially in relation to like Lord Krishna. We believe in like Jeev Ishwar Maya, which is like the soul, then the supreme, and then the material world and such. So we do follow like five vows, which are very similar to what other sects in Vaishnavism do follow, which is ahimsa, so not harming living beings, or vegetarianism, not consuming intoxicants, no stealing, no adultery, and just consuming food and water from proper sources. So, having them filtered and such.
yeah. So I feel like there's a clear connection to Vaishnavism. Because sometimes I feel people who don't know a lot about the Hindu philosophy, they consider Swaminarayan to be a different a completely different religion on its own. So if you see other sects of Vaishnavism, like Hare Krishna sect or the ISKCON belief system, they do believe like the same things as well, right? Like vegetarianism and no adultery and celibacy. And so do you guys have a strong um promotion that's like celibacy and brahmacharya and um at least till your education is complete? Or
Not so. It's mainly just for like sadhus or people who want to like live a saint life. But what is like very promoted is the vegetarianism aspect. And I think that's very unique to Swaminarayan Sampradaya, because I know in some other Vaishnavism sects, like there's like a bit of leeway, but for us it's like mainly a living a lacto vegetarian lifestyle. Like you may have heard that we encourage at least like to consume onion, garlic, eggs. That's a big thing,
yeah,
and just meat in general.
so it's more so like a sattvic lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. It's like very much promoting a sattvic lifestyle, like no intoxicants, so like drugs, alcohol, like nothing that interferes with the mind, because it like we really believe in like meditation and such like that, and it really interferes with.
All right. So talking about meditation, um, tell us about rituals. Are there any Swaminarayan specific rituals or anything that the followers or the devotees of the Sampradaya are required to do in their day to day life? Other than
Um
obviously following the five.
yeah, so we do really believe in like dhyan or meditation. So it's not really like a requirement, but it's like very much encouraged to do dhyan on the murti, which is like meditate on the image of Lord Swaminarayan, and also do Mara, which I don't know if it's something that other sects do, but it's like as part of the daily puja to do Mara, which is a string of beads of 108, and then you have to just chant the name of.
Yeah, and then count.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if that's like specific, but it's a part of the daily puja as well. Abhishek is like also a common practice. There are certain special occasions, for example, where there's like abhishek going on for a while, and
So I think there's aspects of Vaishnavism, and you see that, like, meditating on the Murti and meditating on a physical form of the god or the
yeah,
manifestation.
even like the tilak jana, which is in Vaishnavism, they use like a U-shaped tilak, which is like a marking on the forehead. And yeah, so the men, they have also a U-shaped tilak with a jandlo in the center,
Right,
which is also where you can see the Vaishnav influence from.
right. Yeah. So, like, I personally see a lot of like similarities between the two sort of quote unquote distinct, um, philosophies. But also tell us a little bit more about like the philosophy as a whole, because like my knowledge or my research um tells me about like Westnamrut and the Shikshabhatris. So tell us a little bit more about that and how like obviously and how those two like books play a role in your life as a student or as
Mhm.
a as a young person who follows Swaminarayan.
So the Vachanamrita and Sikshabhatri are the two like main texts in the faith. So the Vachanamrut is basically a collection of discourses of these congregations or sabhas of Lord Swaminarayan. So they're just a collection of like his speeches essentially. And then the Sikshabhatri was written by Swaminarayan himself, and it's just basically a guide on things to do to live like a fruitful life essentially. And we believe that everyone, even if you're not Hindu, like everyone should read it just because it could lead to a like positive changes in your life essentially.
So if you were to give like an example, like what kind of teachings the Shikshabhatri has,
Mhm.
because I think you read that regularly,
Mhm.
um, what would you tell people? Like, what would a few examples of like the teachings the Shikshabhatri has?
So one that immediately came to mind was like never insult anyone's guru or teacher or like spiritual teacher or even like someone older than them or something like that. Like even if you're not Hindu or you're not Swaminarayan, that's something that everyone should follow. Like you pay respect to everybody and then treat them with respect.
I think that's something like that's so beautiful within like the Hindu belief system is everybody's like the individualisticness of spirituality, right? Like everybody has their own path and each of the paths are equally as important and equally as relevant and equally as correct. And I think you can see that regardless of like what sect of Hinduism you're from, you can see that idea being carried in, Shaivism and Vaishnavism and in Swaminarayan as well. And I think that's such a beautiful um concept. And that's why I feel there's a lot of respect towards not only humans but also nature, and which we can see within like vegetarian. That's the promotion of that is like you're respecting the nature around you. Um, in terms of Swaminarayan now, they have had huge temples across the world, right? We have a like really big, beautiful temple to Tobador, which is gorgeous, and everybody
Should
visit
visit it.
because it's like an architectural marvel, and it's carved so beautifully. But also, like recently, the world's second largest Hindu temple was opened in New Jersey, um, and that is Bap's Swaminarayan Temple.
Mhm.
So, tell us about like like the prowess that these temples possess. That all the Swaminarayan temples are not only very beautiful and like very larger than life, but they hold like a lot of cultural role. They're like they serve as cultural centers. So tell us a little bit about more about like Babs here and other Swaminarayan temples and what significance these temples hold to the society and Swaminarayan, the faith as well.
Yeah. Most of the huge, like, white temples, essentially made of marble, you see outside of India, their majority of them are constructed by the Baps sect of the Swaminarayan sect.
Sorry, before we
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit more, like, what is the distinction between Swaminarayan and the Bops sect?
Like in specific gurus, and then it's just like a difference of just small difference of opinion, really.
Right.
Yeah. So they believe in like a different guru than some other
Okay.
yeah. But the Baps, they've made like a huge contribution to promoting not only Swaminarayan but like Hinduism and Indian culture in general in the West. Like by constructing these huge temples, which are, I don't like to say this, but tourist attractions really. And they really do serve as that because a lot of like non-Hindu people, non-Indian people, they visit them and then they learn more about the culture and then just Hindu culture in general, you know?
And I think like it's also like it serves as even for people within the Swaminarayan community, I'm sure like they serve as like cultural center.
Yeah, and not even within Swaminarayan, but just like many other communities as well. China restaurant that promotes sattvic food. So even if you're a part of like, even if you don't eat eggs and such, or you don't eat meat, a lot of people they go to these stores and restaurants, and so even during like certain festivals such as Diwali or even Holi, like a lot of Hindu people or just people in the Indian diaspora, they go to these temples because it is a sense of community, even if you don't follow the teachings of Lord Swaminarayan. It's just like a place where people just find community within the diaspora, which is something that I feel like a lot of people seek once they come outside of India. And like they host classes as well, such as like tabla classes. They host yoga workshops. It's just like it's a community center, and that's how temples have originally the purpose of temples. They were to be community centers, not just places of worship. It's just places where the community comes out, and I feel like they've really achieved that in promoting dharma and promoting Hindu culture in the West.
Yeah, and I think you can see these. There's a not only within North America, but I'm sure like there's a significance of, or there's a prominence of the Swaminarayan culture, even countries within the African continent,
Yeah.
Europe as well. So it's really cool, and you know, as someone who is from the Indian diaspora, I find immense pride because I think something cool about, especially the temple in Tobico, is that they have a little museum that not only shows like the Swaminarayan history, but also the history of India and the history of Hinduism, and not only just the history, but science, uh, architecture, there's, you know, this like philosophies and the different schools of thought. Seeing that within like a temple that is from a specific sect, I think that's also very cool to see.
Mhm.
So within Swaminarayan, now there's like a lot of people say different things ab- about Swaminarayan or even like Vaishnavism. So is the reverence only to, you know, Sri Krishna or Sri Rama, like other avatars of Bhagwan Vishnu, or the followers of Swaminarayan also believe or also hold the other deities as the same regard, that are not like, you know, that are not considered the, you know, Vaishnava deities.
So, as Lord Swaminarayan intended, it's written in the Siksha, but like in the different texts, like he himself had said that you should respect all deities and especially pay reverence to, Shiv, Hanuman, Parvati and Ganpati and so and so. Even in like, I believe in verse 23 of the Siksha Patri, it says that when you're passing a mandir of Shiv or any other deity, you should bow down in respect. So I feel like there is this misconception that it's just, monotheistic. And I do see where it's coming from because a lot of like there are some sects that only pay reverence to Lord Swaminarayan. But if you see by the scriptures, you should be respecting and paying reverence to these deities as well.
And I think that happens like with most Hindu scriptures, where it a sect is seen as a very monotheistic sect, where it's more so that I find connection with this deity. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like the divine energy is the same, right? Like,
Right.
and just because you may see it as Bhagwan Swaminarayan or I may see it as Shiva, it doesn't mean that, oh, like it's a completely different,
Yeah, it's energy.
yeah, it's like energy, and that energy is like, it's all pervading, but it also like pervades in all of us.
Mhm.
Um, what is like something like very Swaminarayan specific?
Okay, as I mentioned previously, like the tilak chandlo and also a kanti, which like I can show it to them. It's like basically a double-stranded necklace made from the tulsi beads. And it does symbolize something. It's
That symbolizes prosperity and health, and it's a good thing for purity.
Mhm.
Purity and Tulsi is one of the five sacred herbs in
It's
Hinduism.
okay, this is kind of me getting a little off topic, but the reason why it's made from tulsi, which is it's a non-expensive plant basically, just to show the detachment from such expensive, you know.
Right. But I feel like even beyond that, like Tulsi itself holds a very a very big significance within Hinduism, because most courtyard in India or
Mhm.
most courtyards here have huge like Tulsi plants, not only because of their religious significance, but also health significance,
Yeah.
right? So it's like regulator of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Okay, maybe we should get a bit back on topic.
If I were to talk to a Swaminarayan person, like how would I know the person, or how would I talk to him?
Oh, you would know, as I said, if they're wearing a kanti or if they have like a tilak channel, you know they're Swaminarayan. And I've experienced that. Like when I've been on transit and then people see my kanti or people like see, well, okay, not for me because it's the men who wear the
Yes.
tilak channel, but especially for the kanti, like people see it and then they just talk to me in Gujarati because they know that most Swaminarayan followers are Gujarati. And
Right.
even if they themselves are not following it, they know that, okay,
Yeah.
this person is part of this sect.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So, as a follower of Swaminarayan, um, there, if you were to talk about something specifically, what would it be like related to, or you would want the world to know something like specific about Swaminarayan?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, there's a lot, but what first came to mind was his I don't know if yatra is the right word, but his yatra around India. So, like, even if again, like, if you don't follow Swaminarayan, I think you should all read into it because when he was 11, like, he left like the material realm, and then he set off with just 5 items. It's not coming to my mind, but just 5 items. He did like I don't know how many years, but it was for a couple of years. He walked um all around India, Nepal, just to spread the word about this dharma. Yeah.
And I think it's also interesting because at the time, during the 17th and 18th century, India was being called, and there was promotion of, India was also being Islam. It's like Islam, the Mughal was
Yeah, yeah.
at a very high. Um, so having teachers like Bhagwan
Yeah.
Swaminarayan or Sri Adi Shankaracharya who promoted Vedanta at the time where not only the British colonization was flourishing, but also there was a huge impact of the Mughal colonization as
Mhm.
well. So having practitioners and people to spread Dharma at the
Yeah.
same time. So I think there is a lot of credit that needs to be given to the Swaminarayan sect, yeah, for the preservation of Dharma at the time and looking at like the impacts of colonizations in different parts of the world.
And something else that also came to mind was that he was very against the practice of back in the time where when girls used to be born, they used to unfortunately like drown them in milk or something because it was not. So he was very against that. He also and he was very against that practice of how the British turned people against each other for like their profession or based on their classes or such like that.
So like obviously I feel like and like I was saying that if looking at, when we look at the credits of Hinduism being so well preserved, even now, like despite thousands of years of colonization, I feel like there needs to be credit given to the Swaminarayan sect as well, because not only, and you can see that, and I think you can see that in the temples too, because the amount of architecture you see, like I'm just talking about the Etobicoke temple, right?
Mhm.
Not even going to the bigger
Oh, that's beautiful. Like I've been there when it was in construction and it's just phenomenal.
It's magical.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And they're not like not only just stonework, but you see like woodwork. And you see like, you go in and it's just like, wow, like, you're mesmerized by the murtis, or the idols inside the mandir, but you're also mesmerized by how delicately the building is carved through. So I think there needs to be like recognition of the fact that the culture, like you said, mandirs do serve a larger purpose to the society, and it's like more so a cultural and an educational center, rather than just being a center of
This
worship.
worship, yeah.
Yeah, and and preservation of like Hinduism and preservation of Dharma and promotion of Dharma at the time of colonization. That needs to be like, and doing that as a child, as an 11-year-old, because you and I at 11-year-old,
Yeah.
we were we were doing math homework.
I was eating crayons.
Exactly.
Joking. I'm joking.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
like, and it's so cool to see that and like, that evolving as a philosophy. But I think that was very insightful, Vishwa. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for enlightening us. This was very insightful to talk about Swaminarayan and learn about, the philosophy, but and also like understand its relation within like the modern versions of the other versions of Hinduism. So before we leave, would you like to say anything?
No, I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity. It's nice to, I feel like the Swaminarayan Sampradaya has a lot of misconceptions about it, and I feel like a lot of people are now willing to learn or listen. So it's just a great opportunity to talk about it.
I think that was great.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming. We can't wait to learn more about it. Um, but yeah, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Naga. We'll see you guys next week. Namaste.